Welcome back to Stationeers. A bit of a short addendum episode, really. Just a part 2 to this, just to fix the bugs, and then show you how to link it back to the rest of the system. So let's start with the bugs. Okay, so what was happening in our program was, if you have a look in here, we were getting to the point where I was basically returning the handle back to 0. And let's just close that now. You'll see that that is back to 0. And of course, it wasn't resetting the mode of this. So anything that further came into this was being held there. Now, there is a mode 2 as well. I haven't used it, but it's a specific logic mode that may help with this. But it's actually working on mode 1. So yeah, I'll just leave that alone. Anyway, in the code, when we get to here, just after we set the initial values of the sorter, we're going to test whether R3, and remember R3 is, it's basically, it's what the thing is currently set to. You know what number? 1 through 7 or 0. And if it's 0, we're going to skip everything else following. So this is all about sorting at that point onwards. And we're going to jump to loop. And then where it says loop, we're going to add an extra, just like the one before it, just to keep everything separate. We're just going to add a safety setting here that just repeats this. It says, basically store sorter mode 0. So that resets it back in the case where basically no switch is pulled back to mode 0, which will start it back in its previous version. Now that takes it back to, let's just confirm that for a second. Does that take it back to the mode where it alternates? We may have to, instead of doing that, we may have to just switch it back to not alternating but rejecting everything. Okay, so let me just try it. So let's do I have any switches pulled at the moment? I do not. Good. Everything is 0. In you go. And you're coming out the reject. And if I put it in again, it's coming out the reject. So that is working exactly as expected. Fine. Hopefully that is all well and good. Now we need to think about connecting to the other machines. And this is where we start to run out of pins again. Because I have actually got 3 pins left, luckily. But this isn't easily extendable beyond 3 machines. So 3 machines plus an unload station, you'll be fine. Any more than that, and that starts to get complicated. You start to have to think about dealing with another housing and then, you know, abstracting some of the stuff onto the other housing. But for the moment, let's go through and set this up. So let's see. These aren't actually labeled anywhere because I've not put an IC on them, but we're going to want to connect to the hydraulic pipe bender, the electroprint machine, and the auto lathe. So I will just set those up. So auto lathe on D1, electroprint on D2, and the pipe bender on D4. Okay, so I've added aliases for the 3 machines, and they're all connected to the pins. 1, 2, 3. And if we go across here, what we're really going to want to do, we may not even need all the machines, but I'm just being safe by attaching them all. At the point at which we decide everything is 0 again, so at the point we jump to loop right here, so loop, what we're actually going to do is want to set those machines to be the same sort of an initial state. And just to be safe, we want to maybe reset everything back to go through the auto lathe. So to do that, we're just going to want to store the auto lathe, or auto lathe, auto lathe, and we want is activate 0. Let me just have a look. It's probably something like that, but I'll just fill in the rest and we can obviously change it later. Electroprint. No, what was electroprint? Activate 0, and then pipe bender activate 0. So we're resetting everything, except that we're probably going to want to set these 2 to 1. So we've got the handle pulled essentially, and this one is 0. Assuming that that's actually the case, I need to just go and check. Let's just grab our little tablet and check what these machines have on them. I love this little configuration thing. Activate on open what happens if I step on this? So that's activate 0. Okay. If I just pull the handle, it's open, not activate. There we go. So open 1 is the handle pulled. So we want open 0 on the auto lathe. So let's go down here, auto lathe, open 0. And then open 1 and open 1. And what that is going to do is, just as, you know, stuff is circulating around our system, it'll eventually end up back in the auto lathe, or if it's past the auto lathe at this point, the other two will continue to let it circulate back through our little station here, and hopefully everything will continue to circulate until it eventually gets back to the auto lathe. So to do this, we're going to have to re-hook up the system and hope I don't need access to it. So yeah, let's just hook up this in a rough and ready state. Corner, a window. Oops. Okay, and we don't need this being, you know, the way it is right now. We want it to come around and back that way. And we're actually going to go, it's coming out that way, so we're going to connect it to this. So let's just grab our tools. And do I actually want to go overhead here? I probably do until I put everything underground. So actually, I'll just put that back. 1, oops, 2, 3, and then we'll go the same height as before. Here were the chutes I forgot about last episode. So I'll do the rest of this off camera. And yep, join me in a second once I've reworked some stuff. Okay, so I've added a chute bin and a junction, and then all of our chutes are going back along this route, over the top, down, into the floor, and back around to the auto lathe. So if I want to put stuff back into the system, you know, if I'm just splitting it in half or something, I can just put the stuff in there, and that should have shot off somewhere. And we're going to just do that with all of our ingots. So I'm just going to grab each of you. There should be 7 if one of them hasn't rolled off. Whoops. If one of them hasn't rolled off. Hopefully that's the case. Silicon, gold, and electrum. Okay. Now, if that is, let's see, that's open, you're closed, and you're open. So they probably ended up in the electroprint. No, they haven't ended in the actual electroprint. Where's my stuff? Interesting. Oh, what is... Oh, have I put that junction the wrong way? I don't think so. What is going on there? It's like it's gone into the junction, but it won't go upwards. And it is connected. Okay, so let's just remove that. Yeah, there's the rest of our stuff. Weird. Will that not go into a junction? Well, it's not hard to resolve. The easiest thing to do there is just to grab this, and we'll just move it over a bit. Let's just grab the junction, make sure that's put the same way it was before. There it is. So whoops, it needs to go upwards, not downwards. There we go. So up there, around and down. Okay, so then let's just try putting a window. And I'm gonna need the chute. I wonder if it's because it's sideways, the chute bin. Hopefully not, but you know, I've seen stranger stuff, particularly in Stationeers. But there we go, chute bin, and there we go. And we just need a another piece. Or well, we just need some. Will I have enough? Enough cable, that is. I got one piece, so why don't we just grab you? We want a corner piece. There we go. And one more corner piece. Just, you know, before I tidy up later. Okay, will you now accept stuff? We should be able to turn on. And does it actually enter the system? Yep, that looks like it's actually succeeded. Good, so apparently you can't put a chute bin into a junction. That should be a bug, so if anyone at the developer is watching, you may want to solve that, unless there is some, you know, reason why not. I don't see why, but yeah. There we go. And copper and gold. Let's try that again. Okay, so has it all ended up back in the electroprint now? Nope. Oh, hang on, I closed the lever. Okay, so it's all ended up back in the auto lathe, fair enough. So, shall we do an end-to-end test of this system? All we need to do that is pull a handle. So, I'm going to pull iron. And hopefully... Oh, actually, I didn't set up the other bit. The other bit is that I'm going to cycle everything open. Yeah, so let's just add that into our program. So when R3 is not 0, which is up here somewhere, so that's when it's not equal to 1. That's just going to jump back up. That's not really the problem. We're going to want to test when it is actually something. So let me just find the appropriate place in the program. I think it's going to be right here, because this is where we're going to jump to loop, you know, if it's 0. So if it's not 0, right after this point, we should be able to set the auto lathe to open 1. And we'll do that with all of them, because they all need to release their contents. Open 1 and pipe bender open 1. Save that. Export. And let's try pulling a handle down. Let's see what happens. I want iron. Is anything happening? No, that's not been opened. That's not been opened. Something is not hitting that line of code. 1 second. Okay, let's see if this solves the problem. This was gone back to 0 because I was using absolute line numbers to jump to, and that's never a great idea for live things. So that's changed to 1, which should then be hitting the part of the code. Let's see. You've opened, and you've opened, and we can already see the ingots going through. Oh, you've jammed. You've jammed at the pipe bender. And that's problematic because that machine has shut its doors. And the problem there is that's... there we go. That's unjammed it. I'm not sure why that happens. Occasionally it does seem to happen. But let's give this a go. You see the stuff is all going around in a circle. And let's see if our iron drops out of the system or if everything... Oh, there we go, iron. Cool. So let's put it back into the system. And around it goes. And because I've still got iron selected, it still should be putting this stuff through the system, assuming it doesn't jam again. So it's there going through the system, although that is alternating between 0 and 1. So we may have to check that in our code, but otherwise, hopefully, well, they jammed here again. You letting them all through? Nope. You've stuck again. Yeah, maybe something to do with the handles. We'll see. I just need to do some more testing. Okay, I've got a bit of a problem here. It would be working apart from these machines. There's something going on with these machines themselves, the input port. It gets jammed. And it's getting jammed in such a way that even if I remove this piece of chute and replace it, the door remains shut. And the only way to actually deal with this is to rebuild the thing. You can't seem to do it by switching the power on or off, pulling the lever, etc. So if I just turn off our program, make sure it's not that interfering. So there it is. That's off. This program is the one that we know works. Okay. And now all the other levers are set accordingly. So this is set to, open 0. We've got silicon in there, but this door isn't opening. And if we have a look at what, properties we've got, activate, import count is 1, export count is 2. Okay. On is 1, open 0, power 1, reagent 0, recipe hash, and required power. There is nothing in here for me to unjam this, and it's pretty much a bug as far as I know, and I can't unjam it. So without that, I can't really leave this system on. That's very unfortunate, but I don't know how to unjam this thing. I don't even know why it jams in the first place. The only thing I can think of is that we may have to put some kind of stacker, but then a stacker will look at the actual amount of ingots and then we'll release them when they hit a certain amount. So that'll slow things down if that's not sufficiently high enough. And that may have to go right in front of the machine or something along those lines. And even then, the stacker will leave the last item in it, because the next item doesn't come along to push it out of the way. So I don't know, and maybe this is over to you if you've encountered the same thing. See, it's happened here again. This is set to, open 1. It's consistently set that way, so that the program isn't even on or isn't even cycling. So the door should be open, and it should be just passing stuff through. So there's some kind of bug with this machine, or in fact all of the machines, I think. Yeah, so I don't really know what to do with that. I don't think it's anything to do with my program, or at least once it gets into this state, there's no way to get it back out again. Pulling this handle sometimes does things. In that case, it will. But sometimes it doesn't. And maybe it's the number of items waiting, but you see that didn't fix it. Nope. And turn it off. Turn it back on, etc. You'll see nothing actually resets this door. Okay, I think I've fixed it, but by the weirdest way possible. Okay. You may laugh. Okay, so this has got the input and output just as before. But on these machines, I've put junctions in front of the input slots. Maybe this is the bug that's going to get fixed pretty soon, because there is an update to go to a different version of Unity and stuff like that. Putting junctions there seems to solve the problem, because I was always noticing that the auto lathe never jammed. It has this underground thing. Both of these two jammed. So I put in junctions, it works. I don't know why. Okay, so I also set I went with the mode 2 approach. I set the sorter to mode 2, and that makes the code a little bit more easy, a little bit easier. So you'll see we had a few of these sorter output things all over the place. Now we don't really need to do all that much, and in fact, I've just taken out the code that automatically sets the autolathe, electroprint, and pipe bender out. I'm just going to leave it as is. I'll show you how to work it in a second, and we can always add it back in. I just may want to wait for the junction bugs to do that. So what's going on? So here we're going to get through to this point. This is when we're about to shift the thing into its sorting mode. So mode 2 is something whereby by default it's going to be output mode -1, and we can just control it by saying output 0, i.e. it's pass-through slot, or output 1, it's the slot closest to me, this one here. So we set it by default to the pass-through slot, and then we check whether R3 is 0, and if so, we jump to loop, which skips, ever setting it to output 1, i.e. it should never output stuff towards us. But if it's not, then we're going to load the occupant hash, compare it, jump to the loop. Let's see. Well, that only applies if this doesn't apply. So yeah, if the two things match, i.e. if it's what we're looking for, jump to sort, which then sets the sorter to output as 1, and then it carries on, hits yield, and goes back to the start again. So all this is essentially doing is, if it matches what we expect, then cool. We can just output. So to give you an idea of how this actually is going to work, is it all in the autolathe at the moment? Yeah, it is all in the autolathe. Okay, so it's on 0. Yep, on 0. We're going to go and pull this one, and it won't automatically start all the machines cycling. We could do that. And in fact, should we actually test whether that actually works with everything else? No. Actually, I'll just do it by this way. So if I just go over here and pull a handle, that just basically gets rid of all the machines in the loop. So you'll see this stuff should be coming through shortly, hopefully. There they come. They're coming through the pipe bender now, and they should come into the top, and they're going to start cycling around, and hopefully the iron's going to get output. There it is. And if we just pull this handle, they'll stop when they get back to this pipe bender. And now I've added the code back in to cycle the machines automatically. So you'll see that one's shut at the moment. All of them are shut, just done that manually just to see whether this works. And if I go and pull the iron lever, that's going to open, and hopefully the others are going to open as well. Yep, they've all opened. Haven't had to do anything else. And everything's cycling through at the moment. I should get iron popping out. Yep. And then we're going to have to basically shut one of them ourselves, basically by pulling that handle back again, and then just shutting or standing on this plate will do the job as well, whichever one we want to reset the system by. Because once I reset this back, I don't know which one I originally had. Well, actually, we can set things. Yeah. So if we have a look at the code, what I've actually done, down here, I've said I'm going to load in basically R3 and check it whether it's 0. And if so, ignore the machines, so just jump to here. Otherwise, I'm going to load the open state into R4, test whether that's actually open, and if so, jump. So I don't try and keep on making it open if it's already open. That shouldn't be needed, but because I've just had glitchy behavior, I'm going to leave it in there. And then basically, if that's not the case, then we're actually going to set it open. And we do the same thing with electroprint and the same thing with pipe bender. So technically, we have the state of the machines at the point at which this first, started changing them. Maybe not. I'm fairly happy with it as is anyway. So I'm just going to copy that out. And I'm actually going to save this into the library and overwrite my previous version. There we go. And that should be pretty much enough to get this all going. We've got all of our stuff in our system. I have lost the silicon and steel. When the problem was happening with the ductwork, they get thrown everywhere. And sometimes they fall through the floor, unfortunately. But not much I can really do about that. So yeah, not sure why there's a bug with those chutes. Sections, the window sections, but for now, junctions appear to do the job, and if that does the job more permanently, that's fine. Now, I also tried putting a junction in here, and it didn't work going into a sorter. It only seemed to work going into a machine. If you put it in here, what happens, if you put it near the junction so it goes into the top and then goes left, if this doesn't accept anything, it just hits that and it just ejects the stuff onto the floor over here. Not even in the direction of where the other port of the junction is, so just out the side essentially. So that's not great. Excuse me, that's not great either. Sorry, I'm coming out with a cough and hopefully not a cold. Don't want to stop recording. Anyway, so that is the station done. The only thing left to actually do in here really is add those other hashes. So if you want to test for any of the other switches, you just add them in here, and you go through this section and set each of those down. So yeah, we're basically saying branch relative if R3 is not equal to 1, and then that jumps 2 lines, and then the next one would be the same line here but not equal to 2, and then choose whatever you've put in switch number 2. I'm going to leave that for you because if I do that, you'll just have to do a lot of editing if you want to change your switches. All I've left in for you guys is that switch 1 is iron, so you can actually test that out for yourself. So yes, pretty happy. And I'll put that in the paste bin for this episode. So it's probably been a bit of a shorter episode, but last episode was like 45 minutes long. Oh dear. So this one hopefully is a lot better. I did also try putting a sort of extended section out here and all kinds of different things, but for now it seems to work in mode 2. Please do leave it in mode 2 and that additional code. Otherwise, add junctions and you're away. So next episode, we're going to have to go down to the furnaces or the sorting system for the furnaces with ores and fix that up. But for now, as always, guys, thanks for watching. Feel free to like, subscribe, share, etc. And we'll see you next time for some more Stationeers.